everybody, I'm Elizabeth Hines from OurPaleoFamily.com, and it is Whole30 Day 5. Yay! We have made it through 4 whole days, and I'm going to be cooking for you twice today because last night's dinner was supposed to be shrimp, and tonight's dinner is fish, and they were both thawed out, and last night I just simply didn't have it in me to put another meal together, so we went out. So if you want to read all about that and where we ate and what we ate, you can find that on my blog. There's a short post for each day detailing what I ate with links to the recipes and details about just kind of generally how it's going. So for lunch today, I'm cooking some pesto shrimp with zoodles or zucchini noodles. So I'm going to get started on that because I'm using my little tabletop burner here, and it is not super duper strong. So I want to get going. Now in my pesto, I'm going to make kind of a typical pesto in that it's going to have basil and olive oil and some kind of nut and salt and pepper. Most pesto contains some kind of cheese, usually Parmesan or Romano, something like that. But on Whole30 we are 0 dairy, so we're not going to put the cheese in. You could use something called nutritional yeast, which contains a lot of great nutrition, hence the name. It's full of some great minerals. If you wanted to get a little bit of that cheesy flavor, it does impart sort of a cheesy flavor. It's kind of a great cheat if you want to use that on occasion. And I have some, but I simply am just choosing not to use it today. I think that pesto has so much great flavor on its own that it would feel almost to me like a waste of the nutritional yeast. It's not a super expensive ingredient, but there are other places where I would rather use it. So I've heated up my dry non-stick skillet, and I'm going to add almost a cup of walnuts, and I'm just going to get those toasting because the toasting will bring out a really nice flavor. And while that is happening, I'll put my trash bag on the floor because it's irritating me. I'm going to get everything else ready for my pesto, and I'm just going to put it all in the blender. I am using my blender because I have one of those tiny Cuisinart food processors, or I think they call it a food chopper. It's just like a mini food processor, and I love it for a lot of things. But this is a little too much volume with my leaves. I'd have to constantly be poking them down, taking the lid off, and so I'm just not going to mess with that. But yet, it's not quite enough for my big food processor, so I think that my blender will do a better job today. And if you really want an inexpensive workhorse blender, this Ninja, which was like $35 I think from Amazon, comes with this big one. It comes with a small blender as well, a lid, so if you want to mix up, I don't know, a big batch of some kind of drink or smoothie and store it in the fridge. It has a nice little tight fitting lid. It's super easy to clean because the blades come out, and there are no little weird parts down there for food to get stuck in. Anyway, I really like this one. I find that it's very powerful actually. It crushes up ice pretty well, and it was really inexpensive, so it definitely suits my needs. So we're going to use our blender today. So let me scoop my zucchinis to the side, and I'm going to put, my recipe calls for 2 cloves of garlic, but these 3, I'm kind of at the end of my head of garlic, and so they're smaller. You know, they're typically bigger on the outside and smaller as you get to the inside of the head. And so these were not particularly large, so I'm going to use 3. I might regret it. I might find that it's a little too strong of a garlic flavor, but I really think it'll be okay. So I'm just going to cut that little hard root end off because sometimes it just doesn't chop up nicely. So into my trash bag that goes. You can see those are pretty small, so those go in. And I have, if I crush this down in a measuring cup, squeeze, it's going to come to like 1/3 of a cup. So this is not the prettiest basil. It's the end of the season. This came from my garden. So we have some leaves that are a little bit dried from the sun. There's a little bit of dirt on the back of some of the leaves. I washed it really, really well, but the fine soil just really clings to the leaves. And I washed them and I rubbed them on a paper towel, but some of them still have a teeny bit of dirt on the back. And you know what? It's okay because I do all organic gardening, and we'll just get maybe some good healthy bugs from a little bit of dirt on our on our basil leaves, so it doesn't bother me at all. Okay, so let me just give these a little stir around. I will start to smell them when they're ready. Nuts will burn really quickly, so you do need to pay attention. So I'm going to grab about the same size handful of baby kale as I had my basil. And this is just the triple washed organic baby kale from the grocery store. And this is maybe not super traditional, but I'm just trying to add a little extra nutrition. I don't think my kids have ever eaten pesto because typically if I eat it, it's in a restaurant, or we've gone to one of those pizza places where you kind of go through the line and build your own pizza, and they'll put a little swirl of something yummy on top at the end, and I always want pesto on mine. But I don't think the kids have ever had that. So I think it's really strong, and I think putting in sort of a neutral green like this baby kale will make it a little milder. You could also use baby spinach. I just wanted to use kale today, so that's what I'm putting in there. And of course we're going to have some salt and pepper, and I'm going to add that a little bit at a time. So I've got a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and then I'll add more as needed. I might need a little bit more salt. Most pesto recipes don't call for quite as much salt because they're using a salted cheese. I can see that some of the little walnut skins in my pan are starting to brown, and I'm starting to smell it. It smells really good, so it's almost ready. Because this is an electric top and I have this good heavy thick pan, it's going to retain heat. If I were cooking on my gas stove, you know, when I turn the fire off, the fire stops, but my pan still retains a little bit of heat. So those are almost ready. You can see how we're getting a little bit of browning, which is just what I want. I can smell them, but it is not burned. Okay, so I'm going to give those just a second to get exactly how I want them. The lid on my blender. I don't know if the cord is long enough to stretch over here. It's not quite long enough. Okay. So, we'll just give this a... Okay. Now I'll go ahead and add my walnuts, which add a lot of great omega-3 fatty acids. That's a great reason to use walnuts. You could, of course, use any other nut. A traditional pesto nut is a pine nut, but my son is allergic to a lot of nuts, but not walnuts. But he is allergic to pine nuts, so we won't use that. Give this a little process there, and then I will start drizzling in my olive oil. I will pour it into a measuring cup so I can tell you just exactly how much I decided to use in the end. I'm thinking a 1/4 cup with this particular amount of leaves. So we'll give that a try. I want to see it start moving around in there, which it isn't doing just yet. But I don't want to add too much oil, so I'm going to scrape everything down. It smells so good. I love pesto. It's going to be so yummy on our shrimp and zucchini noodles. Okay. And it definitely needs more olive oil than that. So I'm going to pour in another 1/4 cup. And put my lid back on. I find this blender easy to use too. It's another reason why I like it. Okay, here we go. Let me pour some in. Really good. Okay, so pesto is another one of those things that is really a matter of taste. So some people are going to like it thicker, like this one is pretty thick, and some people like it really, really smooth, like a thin sauce. So you make your pesto the way you like it. And I got out a fork, I need to get out a spoon so I can give it a taste. you know. I want just a teeny bit more in. So I've used a quarter and then about 1/8 of a cup. So I'm going to put in about another teaspoon. And for my taste, it needs about 1/8 of a teaspoon more salt. And another sprinkle of pepper. And normally, I would say, I'd like a little stronger basil flavor. So I might use, let's see, what did I say? I was about 1/3 of a cup of basil leaves. So maybe 2/3 of a cup of basil leaves and 1/3 of a cup of kale, but this has a mild enough flavor. I think my kids will enjoy it. So we'll go with this ratio for today. Okay, so this is all done. Get this in the sink. Pardon my pile of clean dishes in the drainer over there, but some days I just don't have time to get everything done. So this is one of those days. Some things did not go as I had planned. So we're just going to roll with it. Okay. Get every bit out of here. And we'll set this to the side because we're done with that for now. It's so good. And I'm going to write down what I would want. Okie dokie. So next up is going to be the shrimp. The shrimp and the noodles. So I have some medium-sized shrimp. We were just at the beach and we picked up some shrimp from a fisherman down there before we headed home because one is fresh. It was fresh off the boat that day. It has an amazing flavor, and it is way cheaper than when I buy it here. Even though we're only a couple hours from the coast, you think we'd still get a good price on seafood, but we do not. It is expensive. So I'm just going to lay those out on my paper towel because I want to get a good sear on them in the pan, and to do that I need them to be kind of dry. And these shrimp have such a nice flavor that I'm not going to add anything besides salt and pepper and the oil to them when I cook them. Okay, let's move that aside and I'll get started on my zucchini. And these zucchini noodles are kind of all the rage right now, and I realize that. And so, let's get that out of the way. One of the benefits of being a food blogger is that I feel like I can justify trying some of these kitchen trends or food trends that I wouldn't normally spend the money on. So I bought one of these spiralizers. This is the Pesto, I think. I have it linked on my website, so you can find a link to it there. You can see it's kind of big, and it takes up some space in my cupboard. It does come with 3 different blades. They have another version that I think has 5 different blades, but I felt like 3 was sufficient. There's a one that makes a fatter noodle, one that makes a skinnier noodle, and then one that makes like a ribbon. I'm going to just drizzle about 2 tablespoons of avocado oil in my skillet and let that start heating up. And because people complain about their zucchini noodles because they're watery, and of course it's a very water-rich vegetable, so when you cook it, it's going to be watery. And I have found that I like it best when it's just barely cooked. It's great raw in a salad. I love them that way a lot more actually than cooked. But this is a cooked meal. It's not a cold salad, which certainly it could be. You can cook your shrimp, cool them. Pesto can be served hot or cold. I see just a little piece of shell on that shrimp. So it could be a cold salad, but I'm cooking it today. It's fall, I'm feeling like having it warm. So we're going to make our zucchini noodles, and I just want to show you how this thing works. Some people love them. I know a lot of food bloggers really rave about them, but frankly, I find that it's a little more trouble than it's worth. I mean, for one thing, you really need to have something that fits on here perfectly. Right see them coming out. It's cute, it's kind of fun, but when you eat this, nobody is thinking, oh boy, this is a wheat-based pasta. You are fooling me. No, there's no fooling. And then you end up with this little piece at the end that you still have to deal with. Eat it, you know, or it's wasted. That's a lot. That's like a quarter of my piece of zucchini. I don't want to just throw that away. So we'll spiral through all of these. You can do the spiraling thing with lots of different vegetables. I've done it with sweet potatoes before, and then fried them in my skillet to make like a, I just want to show you how this does if I try to keep it long like this. It's kind of unwieldy. It's a little bit more difficult to work with. Make sure you stick it on that end. You can do it. I have just found that it's a little bit easier if I cut it in half. The sweet potatoes spiralized are good, but again, it's hard to do. It's actually really hard because potato is a really dense vegetable. This little end thingy just kind of drives me crazy. But they're cute, aren't they? But look, they're super long. So when you go to serve these, it's kind of a pain to serve. One person will end up with this gigantic serving. So I just snip them with my kitchen scissors. These are clean. I only use them for food. If I use them for something else, I obviously wash them very well. These are designated as my kitchen scissors. So I'll give them a little snip, or else, like I said, they're kind of difficult to work with. They're super cute, aren't they? I wish they were really as amazing as everybody says they are. So, I'm not saying don't get one of these veggie spiralizers. I'm just saying I don't think it's going to change your life, okay? And the way I would typically, my hair, the way I would typically make my zucchini noodles is I would either just cut them very thinly. So I'd take a little bit of time, use my knife skills to cut them very thinly, or just slice them up and saute them in the skillet, and it is much less fussy, and it actually tastes exactly the same in the end. Now, when you salt a food that is watery, it helps to pull the water out of that food. So one way around having such watery noodles is, like I said, not to cook them quite as long as you might otherwise, and then don't salt them. So I've made a really flavorful pesto that is very well seasoned. I'm going to season my shrimp really well, and so I can afford to have my zucchini simply saute and not add the salt, and that will not, it won't leach out quite as much water that way. It doesn't look silly with that big long thing. Okay, so then you pull this out. This is your blade. It's kind of dangerous. You real carefully pull that out. And then get this big guy out of the way. And we'll get the rest of these in the pan. Like that whole zucchini makes just super long noodles. It's really funny. They make really nice food blogger photographs. There's always an upside. I'm just not gonna mess with those right now, and I'm just gonna put them to the side, and I'll cook them or slice them up in a salad another day. I'll just stick them in the fridge in a Ziploc bag. Get to them later. So I'm gonna actually deal with my squash with a pair of tongs. So I can just kind of gently flip them around so they get warm all around. then I'm going to get my skillet on for my shrimp. Okay, those are going back in there. So I have another heavy non-coated pan. I'm going to turn it on pretty high. I'm not going to use olive oil because olive oil is really best in a non-cooked application, like a salad dressing, this pesto, any kind of sauce. You'll be drizzling on top of your fish once it's cooked. Avocado oil handles the heat really well, and it's not one of those inflammatory omega-6 rich oils. So I'll get just enough in there to coat my pan. So the amount that requires depends on the size of your pan. This is a 10-inch skillet. Set that to the side. I'm going to give my pesto just another taste, just to make sure it's really okay. It's really good. It's really, really good. I'm get my other tongs. Help get that oil all over. These all-clad pans are super nice. I really like them, but the few that I have really long handles, really long, and I don't know. And they sort of stick up like this, which I'm sure is a really good quality, but I end up kind of knocking into it and knocking things over. They kind of get in my way. Okay, so these are getting warm, starting to sizzle. I would love it if they would start to brown a little bit, get a teeny bit crispy. If you wanted to get really fancy, you could beat up a few eggs with maybe some coconut milk or almond milk mixed in, some salt and pepper, maybe some more basil, whatever fresh herbs you like, and pour that on top of these zucchinis and then pop them in the oven and make like a little frittata. The shrimp and the pesto on top of that would be so yummy. That would be really good if you feel like being gourmet. But I'm not going to be gourmet today. We're going to just be simple and hopefully fast. So this guy is not on high, and I want him on high. So let me taste one of my noodles. They're really sweet. Fresh vegetables. I'll tell you what. If you have people in your family who say they don't like vegetables, pick one, maybe one a week, and have them taste it raw. Saute it in the pan so it browns and gets a nice little caramelization on it. Have them try it in lots of different ways, and I bet they'll learn that they like a lot more than they thought they did, because vegetables have really, most of them have a lot of sweetness to them and are actually really nice flavor, but just boiled or steamed is not the best way to bring out that those natural sweet flavors in your veggies. Okay, so my oil sort of has that shimmeriness to it, which is what I want. Hopefully my shrimp are not going to pop on me too much because I dried them. You hear them sizzle? Shrimp cook very, very quickly. I don't know if I can get them all in my pan at once. I might have to do 2 batches. Just pop it on me a little bit. Good. One more. I'm going to real quick sprinkle with a little bit of salt and pepper, and they'll very quickly turn pink. You see this how quickly they're turning pink? I'm going to flip them over. By the time I get around my pan and get them all flipped, they'll be done, and I can add in my next batch. That's one thing that is super nice about seafood, that it cooks really, really fast. So if you need a quick dinner and you have some shrimp or scallops or fish in your freezer, you have an amazingly fast dinner at your fingertips. And also, they defrost very, very quickly, which is really nice. If you overcook shrimp, other shellfish, they will tend to get rubbery. They're not nearly as enjoyable to eat that way. I want to make sure they're done. There'll be a teeny bit of leftover or a carryover cooking once I take them out of the skillet, but not a lot because they simply weren't in here very long. That's on the cold side, so those two aren't quite finished. So I'll let them finish while I put the rest of these little guys in. And really, with anybody timing, it's like 30 seconds per side. Not 30 minutes, oh dear, 30 seconds. Shrimp are really great on the grill too, and again, it's the same way. They're super duper fast. Get a nice smokiness from the grill. Let me get these other two out. Now have space for their last little friends. Whoop, there's one more. When we were at the beach, there are lots of people that fish on the beach, and I hardly ever see them catch anything. I'm kind of fascinated by that. But there are lots of fishermen out there, and my husband and I were walking one day, and this guy was fishing, and his dad was kind of standing back and watching him, and this man's hat fell off, and we could see it from a distance, and I'm sure the dad saw it, but he wasn't kidding it, and it fell into the ocean, and the man that was fishing didn't notice, and it was kind of washing out and washing back, and it was really bothering me. This poor guy, you know, was losing his hat, and so we went and got it for him and took it to him. And he said, oh, thank you. And at that time, he pulled his line out of the water, and there were like 5 shrimp on the end of his line that looked just like this, you know, I mean, raw shrimp. But they had heads and the heads and the legs on them and everything. And I said, oh, I had my airhead moment. Oh, did you catch shrimp? And he just looked at me like I was crazy, and then I realized, no, the shrimps were his bait, and if he had caught them, they would not have been shellless and nice and pretty looking like they were. So I did not know the shrimp would make good bait for, I assume he was trying to catch fish. I don't know, maybe he was trying to catch a shark or something. Anyway, that was my airhead moment. I cannot wait to eat these shrimp. So because I'm making these for lunch, and it's just my daughter and I at home, and she's not going to eat it because that's a very long story, but she's not. So I'm the only one that's going to eat this today. I'm going to pack these up, and my husband and my son will eat the rest for dinner tomorrow. They're headed off on a Boy Scout trip, and they always have to have a quick dinner that they can eat real fast before they head out of town. So I'll have a nice little dinner of pesto, zoodles, and shrimp for them. Let me turn my skillet off. My shrimp are done. And that was just a pound. I knew there would just be 3 of us eating it. If my daughter was eating too, she loved shrimp, then we would have had, I would have needed like 1.5 pounds. Get a little water in that skillet, and that will help it to release the browned bits on the bottom. And these guys are done the way I like them. Let me serve it up for you and show you what it looks like. Okay. Just put that to the side. So I just take a nice pile of noodles. And you see there's a brown one in there. That's yummy, yummy flavor. Those are my favorite parts, but I won't be selfish and take all of those. Now, I want my pesto to sort of melt into my noodles. So, can you notice my pesto has started to kind of darken on the top? It's still bright green underneath. It's oxidizing. So when I put this in the fridge, I will put plastic directly on top of it. So I'm going to sort of put this all over my noodles. It'll start to melt down in there. And then just top it with some of my shrimp. think I need one more since I'm the chef, right? So let me get a knife. Gosh, I wasn't prepared with my dishes out today. Sorry. Cut a little piece of noodle here, some pesto, shrimp. So this was a dish I saw in a magazine that I was reading at the beach, actually, and I thought, oh, that sounds awesome. It looks really simple. I can do this. Yum, yum. It's so flavorful. I just love it. Make your pesto the way you like it. Use whatever nut you like. Just remember, if you're doing Whole30, don't add any cheese. You could add a mix of greens. You could even use some different herbs. I actually have some chives in the garden. I could have put some chives in there. That would have been delicious too. I mixed my basil and my kale, and the kale is baby kale, so it was very, very mild in flavor. Sort of mellowed out the strong basil flavor a little bit. You could have used baby spinach, Swiss chard, even like a dark leafy salad green would have been fine, would have been really delicious in there. And just real simple. Some squash noodles, you could just slice your squash, you didn't have to spiralize them, and they're already starting to get a little bit overdone, so I definitely want to take those off and not cook them too long. Just set them to the side. And then saute your shrimp, super, super fast in the skillet, and you have a really quick, easy meal. You could certainly have made your noodles ahead of time. You even cooked them ahead of time and heated them up, or simply eaten them cold, and absolutely made your pesto ahead of time. So then all you had to do was cook your shrimp, and you could have dinner on the table in 10 minutes. So that's Whole30 Day 5 lunch, and we'll be back with dinner in a little bit. Thanks, everybody.